Hey leisure folks, my name is Jared.
My name is Michael Corrali.
And we are the Leisure Critics.
Leisure Critics, say what? Leisure Critics, oh yeah.
We did it, that's great. Well folks, you might not recognize him. It's his first time with us. He was with us for kind of the beta testing phase of the Leisure Critics. And now he gets to join us in a real video.
Very excited.
I'm very excited to have you here. I don't know what's your history with Superman. How much do you know about the comics, the movies?
Of Superman and the comics, my least interest. Superman was my dad's guy.
Okay.
My characters were Batman, and I'm really a Marvel kid. I'm more of a Marvel kid than DC, but as DC goes, Batman definitely takes cake.
True.
Superman was always just the Boy Scout that I didn't want to hang out with.
Well, beggars can't be choosers, you know what I'm saying?
I know that.
I grew up with the Superman movies. I saw the first one. I was really excited. I lived a very sheltered childhood. And when I discovered that there was like a 2, 3, 4, it blew my mind. And of course I got them all from the library. I actually had the Superman pajamas with the detachable cape when I was a kid. And they were fantastic.
Was the cape detachable because there were death risks of
Yes, most definitely. Yeah. You could strangle yourself if you slept with it, and there weren't Velcro. A lot of kids died actually. Sad story. But today, folks, we are going to be talking about the upcoming movie, but more or less we're going to be focusing on the past iterations of Superman in film, and we're going to try to come up with a rating system. We're doing a video in unison with Ramble On About Movies. It's a podcast coming out of Columbus, Ohio. One of my good friends, Dan Nye, is one of the head runners of that. And they're going to be doing a lineup of the Batman films.
Okay, we got Superman, they got Batman.
Yeah, well, I wanted to give them home field advantage.
Fair enough.
So they got Batman. We're doing Superman.
They got first pick.
Well, I gave it to him.
You gave it to him.
I gave
That's
it to
nice
him.
of you.
Yeah. Well, we have the visual medium. They're just using the voice. So
Fair enough.
You know, they need all the help they can get. But there are a lot of great guys over there. They've got great insight on a lot of film, TV, comic books, movies, all that stuff. So definitely go give them a listen. There'll be a link in the description. But for now, we also have whiskey to try.
Yeah,
There's a lot going on, guys.
Drinking whiskey.
Yes. So I'm a big fan of bargain buys. Have you ever had Fighting Cock?
I've never had fighting cock.
Well,
I've bought some cocks. Never had any fighting cock. Never drank fighting cock.
you're about to drink some Fighting Cock, my friend.
I'm excited.
The bottle's like $20, and it's a 6-year-old bourbon.
Not my favorite, but I've got an open mind.
Well, 6 years old, and it's bourbon. Can't be that bad.
Could be. Most bourbon is.
Doesn't smell that bad.
No, it doesn't.
All
That's
right. We'll give it a little pour here, and then we are going to get talking. So, you have you've done some homework.
I attacked this vigorously. You gave me an assignment. I wanted to be involved. I wanted to bring my A game. So I really sat down. I went back, watched 1, 2, 3, Returns, and Man of Steel. Not in any specific order, which might have been a bad idea. Might have gotten some prejudices based upon watching old movies and watching brand new movies.
A lot of the material is dated, but
That was a big thing. I ran into the hiccups right there. Did not watch 4, but that's okay. 4 is unwatchable.
a lot of people didn't watch 4. Cheers, sir.
Something. That's not horrible.
No, Fighting Cock, $20.
Very drinkable.
Yeah, super drinkable, very
Very
smooth.
drinkable.
Not a lot of bite. It's got a little bit of spice to it.
Yeah, it does. Not upset about that.
No,
That's okay.
love it. I've been drinking a lot of ryes lately.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Good to be back on the bourbon train.
good to be back on the bourbon train for sure.
I've always been an Irish myself. There's actually, if we can segue real quick into whiskey.
Absolutely.
Discovered.
There's always time for whiskey.
Always time for whiskey. Cool, not very well known, limited release, coming from the same distilleries that do Redbreast and Jameson. They also do something called Green Spot.
Seen it. Actually, we've got it at the location.
You got it at the store? Very good.
Really?
Very good. It is, if you're a fan of Irish whiskey, and my brother is, this was his birthday gift, and he's always been a Redbreast man. He describes Green Spot as just a better Redbreast. One cool fact about the Green Spot is that I think something like 25% of the production goes to one single, is sold in one grocery store in South Wales.
Wow.
Yeah. In Wales.
Wales.
Didn't expect that. I
No.
thought like maybe that would just go right out the door at the front. There's one grocery store that buys 25%. This could be made up numbers. This was a story from another person.
As soon as it's on film, it's fact.
Yeah, that's what I think.
But let's do a quick breakdown of the Superman films. You've got the original.
Love to.
Came out, was the first one, is really one of the first superhero movies
Yep.
ever to come
Yeah, it really was.
to screen. Tagline, "You'll believe a man can fly." And for a lot of people, it really did. Start with 1, 2, 3 years later, they got Superman 2.
2 came out.
In Superman 1, it's basically just telling the story of Superman.
There's a little bit of rehashing at the beginning of 2, a little bit too much. Fun fact about 1 and 2, they were actually being produced almost simultaneously. 2's production was almost done until they realized, hey, we should probably finish 1 before we finish the second film.
I did not know that.
And they held on to it for a while.
Well, that explains why the villains are in the beginning of Superman 1.
Yeah, and they're also hanging out in 2.
They're the main antagonists.
They just went out and just went ahead and shot all that material and then sat on it for a while.
For the first Superman, the main antagonist is, of course, Lex Luthor, his arch nemesis.
A nice introduction. Gene Hackman does an amazing job as Lex Luthor.
Fantastic. My number 2 Lex Luthor.
Pretty great Lex Luthor.
He's fantastic.
I'm gonna go ahead and say my number 1.
Well, I really enjoy Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey was good. Gene Hackman, though, has just his quality with his bumbling fools of henchmen, which is shocking for one of the... I guess he's portrayed as the most intelligent person on the planet.
He's portrayed as the most arrogant person on the planet.
Definitely is arrogant, devious-minded.
Yes.
But yeah, his henchmen are retardedly stupid.
And they just get worse as the movies go on.
Incapable. And funny names. What's the lady's name?
I don't remember.
Testaburger? Testabottom?
It's all gone. I blacked out a lot of it.
And she's the Deus Ex Machina. She saves Superman in the first movie. He's drowning with a necklace of kryptonite. She feels guilty because, where was it? Somewhere in Rhode Island. Her mother was about to die because that's where the second missile was going to.
Oh, yeah.
Low-flying missiles, if you remember. Those were some super low-flying missiles.
Yes, well, they needed to take advantage of as much green screen usage as possible. And, I mean, they had a big budget, so they just went for it.
That was a fun one for me. I was like, I don't know if missiles are actually like that. I don't
For
know if
me,
they actually do that.
As a kid, growing up, Superman 1, like the whole ending where he swoops around the
And
planet
he reverses
and
time.
reverses time. I was a big science nerd, and I saw that, and I was like, 12-year-old me was like, I don't believe that at all. Adult me would now be saying, that's bullshit. I don't believe
I'm
that.
okay with it. You know what? I'm okay with it.
I guess it is
Of
comic
all
book
the forms
movie.
of time travel, that's got to be the most accessible. You just have to first find Kryptonian.
You know, we'll see. We've never spun the Earth the other direction, so
No, we
I guess
haven't.
who am I to say?
No, we haven't.
In
Not
Superman 2, gosh, what happened in Superman 2? You get he throws a nuclear bomb out into space.
Yeah,
It
blows up the
Phantom Zone.
Yep, Phantom Zone. I think of it as a prismatic sphere. I always just imagine that.
It
That's
is
what
a
looked
fun
like. It
effect,
was
yeah. It's
very,
like,
the thing. That was a really fun.
That was great.
That was way better than Man of Steel's version, where they're stuck and then they're banging on the mirror. I can just see them at like a window. They're like, oh, what else is in here? What do we got back there? Man of Steel are just all encased in carbonite or
And then
whatever it was.
thrown out into...
And just kind of tossed into space.
They're put in large penises and then launched
Yeah, that's
into...
what it looks like.
Yeah, and then they're launched into a ship, which
That's
somehow
what I'm
they...
at.
You know, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we are. A little
Focusing
bit.
on 2.
Number 2.
Those 3 get released, they go to the moon, they screw with some moon astronauts.
Which is not noted by the world at all, is an important thing to feature
Yeah,
for,
they never follow up with
for
that.
reporters being featured very prominently. The recording of world events, very poor.
Yeah.
Very poor. Astronauts on the moon,
Disappear.
people got to know about them.
They're dead now.
They're just gone.
Yep.
Also, a fun thing about these Kryptonian criminals, General Zod, they're discovering of the powers that they now have.
Yes.
A lot of exposition explained while they're realizing what's happening to themselves, as well as some fun, bumbling little slapsticks where they're trying to harness their powers. The big, tall guy wasn't good at the laser eyes. He had some trouble at the beginning.
I will say this, the Donner cut, it paints a much darker tone for the entire movie. Especially that final showdown in New York with General Zod, you know, blowing cars all over the place and like the big fight, which, Granted, the special effects are quite dated at this point, but that fight holds up.
I still liked it.
That fight was pretty
It
good.
was very enjoyable.
Before the Avengers, there was Superman 2.
Yes, there was.
And that was surprisingly good. And there's these really, really dark moments where he's like, kneel before Zod! You're like, man, this guy's got some serious emotional issues here. And I think that Donner Cut is much more the film that they were originally making, because originally Donner was the director, and then he left, and then they had to bring on this other guy.
Brought in some stranger.
Exactly. Who then Gene Hackman didn't want to work with, so you don't really see him for half the movie.
Yeah, Hackman was there, and then he goes away, and then he comes back, but he has nothing really to do. Hot air balloon escape. Speaking of Gene Hackman, that's how he gets out of prison. Plus, hologram technology,
Yes.
better than anything we have seen before or since.
Which, did they make that out of, like, just leftover prison equipment?
I have no... It's Lex Luthor. He has his ways.
He must be a genius in these movies.
He found kryptonite based upon, in the first movie, one news article
Wow.
and a date.
Yeah,
And he comes back with kryptonite.
that's crazy.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give him holograms. He gets holograms.
All right. He gets holograms, but can we real quick just talk about Superman coming out to Lois Lane about being Superman? Clark Kent admits, like, it's me. Which,
The big glasses reveal, and she's like, "Oh shit, that's right.
oh man, that's totally you.
Yeah, you look exactly like him. That's weird."
Gosh, man, if we're ever gonna have sex, you better get your powers taken away, because otherwise I'll die.
Precursor, unfortunate parallel with the Twilight series. If you recall,
Don't.
you shouldn't, because hopefully you
Yeah.
haven't been involved. But there was
Nope.
a similar parallel. The vampire dude was way too powerful to be having sex with a person.
Well, he's
And
dead anyway. He shouldn't be able to get a boner.
I don't remember if she became a vampire. Whatever happened, powers had to be exchanged. Things had to happen. Apparently, there's a long-standing thing: superhumans should not be having sex with humans.
Yes,
Just not allowed.
it shouldn't happen.
Shouldn't happen.
I agree.
Not a good thing.
No.
Never ends well.
So he gives up his powers to be a man. He gets beat up in a diner, and then Zod wants the son of
Yeah, he wants a piece of
Jor-El, and he's like, well, crap.
Better get those powers
Better
back.
go get those powers back.
Which we were led to believe cannot happen.
Couldn't happen.
Very easily done.
That
Very
is-
easily done.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
Also, walks from that diner back to the Fortress of Solitude as a human being.
that had to take like 2
This
months.
is a while. He walked through the North Pole wearing a light jacket.
That's
A
ridiculous.
lot of not paying attention to the cold in all of these films, actually.
Yeah, that's a common theme
Yeah.
for a lot of them.
Takes Lois up to the North Pole, and she's just wearing her dress, just like she was.
Well, I mean, he's going high altitude in Superman Returns and in most of these movies
Yeah,
with Lois.
he doesn't care.
She'd be freezing.
Yeah, she seems cool.
She should.
Although, if we're going to talk about the cold, we should also talk about the fact that apparently Lois can fly as well as Superman.
Yeah, he's just holding on just by a hand.
Well,
it's
a couple of
just-
times they let go, and she's just
And she
like,
just keeps going.
It's
Yeah, it
horrible.
doesn't make any sense.
No, it's not good.
Also, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
though.
we are.
Sooner or later, they get into space, and that's a completely
Whole
different problem.
Yeah,
It's a whole new set of issues. But he beats General Zod. Everybody enjoys it. Superman 2 is a strong picture. That's good. That's the thing that I keep coming back to with the ratings for me is Superman embodies hope, and he should be hope. I mean, I like the whole on my planet it means hope. It's not an S scene from Man of Steel.
Wasn't a fan of that.
I kind of liked it because in the previous iterations of Superman was kind of like, he was this good guy, like people can be better than what they
He
are.
was mankind's greatest hope.
Exactly. Superman 3 takes a different turn. You enjoyed Superman 3.
I loved Superman 3.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, the fun thing about Superman 3 is Superman 3 is not, in fact, a Superman movie. It is an 80s period Richard Pryor comedy with some fairy dust of Superman involved. In fact, I would say Richard Pryor gets more screen time than Christopher Reeve does, and that is not a bad thing.
So it's like kind of like a Richard Pryor movie crossed over into the Superman
Yeah, he
universe.
just wanders into the Superman universe.
The movie starts off completely wacky.
The movie
starts off A
ridiculously.
Rube Goldberg series of events.
Lots of crazy stuff.
Dog gets lost. Seeing Eye Dog runs away.
A car is flooded after it runs over a fire hydrant.
Yes.
And apparently is perfectly airtight or watertight.
That's amazing, first of all.
And then Superman, like, oh shit. Oh god. Now I gotta do that. One of the best things about Superman saving people in Superman 3, every civilian he comes across is not at all shocked to see Superman suddenly behind them.
No.
The chemical fire, the fire chief.
The chemical. Oh, it's you.
Hey, what's up, Superman?
Hey, buddy.
This is a bad situation.
Yeah.
He's like, what can I do? Like, you know better than me. I don't really know the full scape. Your powers seem to change movie to movie. And you kind of improve and change, and you want to do the plastic wrap thing that you threw from your chest? That was a good one.
That was a
I
thing
like
that happened
one.
in Superman 2. Also, in the comics, he could shoot a miniature Superman
Yeah, mini Superman.
out of his hand.
He can, fair enough, he did make holograms of himself in Superman 2. He got Zod. He was like, oh, 3 holograms, then I'll go stand close to this 4th hologram. Yep, exactly what happened. Out of nowhere, Superman's not the hologram.
Nope.
Which, if you've played any, I don't know, like Baldur's Gates or Dungeons and Dragons, you know that if you destroy 3 holograms, there's only 1 hologram left. That's the real one.
Yeah, he
That's
should have known.
Yeah.
Maybe he wasn't expecting Superman to have that technology. Maybe
guess
Superman
it
stole that from Lex Luthor.
Maybe Superman
Kryptonians
surprised himself.
Yeah. Kryptonians probably don't have holograms, so he was ill-equipped to face them.
Early on, they seemed really big into crystals, but then the whole crystal thing kind of went away as we grew up. No crystals in Superman.
Superman 4 tells the tale of Lex Luthor. Oh, also, in Superman 3, can we talk about the fact that Gene Hackman's not in it, and
Not
they
at
get
all.
a discount Lex Luthor?
Not at all. Not even a Lex Luthor. The villain in Superman 3 is not even a real villain.
What is he? He's just a megalomaniac.
Just kind of a guy. He's a rich fella. And if he'd kept his nose down, Superman never would have noticed him. And in fact, I don't think Superman really does notice him. Superman was a little bit too busy turning into a dick, doing wonderful things such as blowing out the Olympic torch,
Yes.
causing an oil spill, as well as, now this wasn't because he turned evil, I guess just because he's stupid, as Clark Kent, he eats dog food. He enjoys it as well. I'll bring you back. There's a picnic scene with Lana Lang where they go and they're sitting. Clark Kent is pulling things out of a picnic basket. Oh, potato salad. Oh, corned beef. Oh, pate. And he opens the pate. He takes 3 bites. Lana notices, oh, Clark, no, that's the dog food. This is his reaction. Ha 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 ha. I'll have 1 more bite. And puts it away. He has 1 more bite after he finds out it's dog food.
Yeah.
He even says, it's not bad. It's not bad. Dog food was pretty good
Well, dog food was a higher quality back then.
back then.
Also,
back then.
he's got super taste buds, so maybe he can taste things that we can't
He
taste.
gets the nuance of
Yeah,
the pureed
subtle
meat leftover products.
Yeah. The villain in the Superman 3 film was
Donald
discount
Trump.
Lex Luthor. Donald Trump.
I would say he's
with
a
like
combo of Donald Trump
with like a hot bimbo and his sister
Yep.
who gets turned into a cyborg out of
His
nowhere.
sister, one of the greater characters of the film. She, in her opening scene, she attacks the bimbo for saying something stupid,
Yes.
and then this is the line she delivers: "Pay attention, ladies and gentlemen, I am about to take a human life." It was amazing.
That's a good line.
It's just one of the many things that made me fall in love with Superman 3, and ultimately put it at the top of the list.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You're giving. Okay. We're
Firm
gonna
statement.
have to talk about this.
Firm.
We have to agree on a lineup, and this could get heated, guys.
This will get awkward. when we come to
Superman
it.
4, I think we can both agree, will be at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, Superman 4 was just made by Canon Films, which the masterminds behind Over the Top.
It was just a studio circling that.
Yeah,
train.
not the best
No.
things happened
No.
with Canon Films.
No.
Very low budget.
Yeah,
Extraordinarily low budget.
It starts off with him like saving some astronauts out in space.
Yeah, he did something
And
weird.
for some reason he can talk in space, which I didn't know he could do that.
Superman can.
There's vacuum. There's no sound. There can't be sound.
Kryptonian.
Moving on though. Some kid is like, oh man, Superman should take all the world's nuclear weapons. And I remember being a kid and watching this movie like, you know what? That's great. I'm glad he's doing that. We don't
like
need
a good
nuclear
idea at the
bombs.
time.
But the UN? I don't think they'd be very happy
I don't
about
think
that.
they'd be a fan about
I
that.
don't think it would be a standing ovation.
No, that'd be kind of like, hey, this is getting out of hand here.
Slow your roll, motherfucker.
You're America's thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe a little bit of foreshadowing to America's future role in the world.
Yeah, I guess. World Police.
Yeah, I got political there.
Yeah, you did. Dropped that bomb.
Just happened.
Ayo!
Superman 4, I think we both agree, unwatchable.
Yeah.
Atrocity?
Atrocity. It's an abortion put to film.
Ooh,
It's
good.
the production quality is non-existent.
So low.
The main villain, the climax of the movie is basically a cat fight between two superhumans.
Yeah.
Which
And not a good one at that.
no,
Not a good fight.
like literally
A lot
cat
of
scratch, like nails shooting out
in the air, wrestling, sort of,
in slow motion
kind of homoerotic.
on the moon.
Yeah.
Bad.
Not good.
Not good at all.
Not good at all.
But after that, we got a movie that asked us the question, what if episodes 3 and 4 of the Superman saga never
Didn't
happened?
exist.
What if they just didn't exist?
Didn't happen at all.
What if after Superman 2, Superman decided to fly to Krypton
It
and
was
to
searching for his origins.
to see if there were any survivors?
Which, you know.
Which there weren't.
No.
But
Long trip.
I think Superman is a great Lois Lane movie. I think it's great.
So the first problem we run into with Superman Returns is, I believe chronologically, plus 5 years.
Yeah.
Real time, Superman 2, 1981, 1981. Superman Returns, 2008.
Yeah.
Big gap.
Well,
And it
there's
shows.
there's a time gap. You fly to Krypton, and
You come back.
These temporal distortions.
I actually think, you know what? DC has already solved this with the theory of the multiverse.
He came
He
back
went
to
to Krypton, came back to a different Earth.
completely different Earth.
Different Earth, different Lois,
Odd that he didn't notice.
different Luthor.
Lois, by the way, in Superman Returns, quite possibly one of the worst parts of the movie for
Yeah.
me.
I've never liked Lois Lane.
She got a Razzie Award for Worst Supporting Actress.
Not a bad thing for her. Not a bad thing. I'd be proud of that one. Put it on your shelf.
Well, I mean, it is a Razzie, so it is technically an award. But yeah, Superman Returns, I actually really enjoyed it because I think Kevin Spacey's great
Kevin
as
Spacey
Lex
did a good
Luthor.
job.
Parker Posey is like my favorite part of that movie. Kind of, because when it came out in 2006, I was like 18.
Okay. Fair enough.
Kind of found out I might have a slight crush on Parker Posey. Don't know why.
Not a bad thing.
You know, but it happened.
Can't be ashamed of that.
If you're listening, Parker, my wife will not respond well to this. Moving on, I think that the plot of Superman Returns is pretty good. Because, you know, you got Lex building land, which leads us back to Superman
Building
1.
land via crystals.
Exactly.
Was happy about that.
You know, because it all kind of connects.
Much homage paid in Returns to the original films.
However, the way they solve this issue,
Strange.
very strange.
Very strange.
How can he lift kryptonite and throw it out into space?
When moments earlier he was completely dilapidated by kryptonite.
Doesn't make any sense.
Great ass-kicking scene. Actually, almost one of the darkest points. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and say his ass-kicking scene on the Kryptonite Island, where Luthor's cronies are just giving him. It looked like I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Superman gets jumped in. Looked like a gang initiation.
Yeah, he got
kicking the shit out of
He got
him.
rocked.
Then he gets shivved, and then falls off of a fucking cliff.
Yeah, he got rocked real bad.
It was rough.
Yeah, it was hard to watch.
But then he
honestly.
summons some willpower, and all of a sudden he can overcome kryptonite.
Exactly.
Not the best
Really
logic.
weird. Really weird.
But you know what? Willpower, adrenaline, fear.
All these.
Sometimes these things make superhumans.
Yeah, I guess
Or
all those other
superhumans
times.
even more super.
Yeah, I guess all these times he wasn't overcoming kryptonite. He just wasn't trying.
Yeah,
hard
he didn't
enough.
want it enough.
He didn't want it.
But
enough.
this one was important.
Yeah.
This one, things really look bad.
For all these movies, there's highs, there's lows.
Not
Man
the
of
most consistent.
No, Man of Steel.
Ooh.
I gotta say, this was the highest grossing Superman movie.
Certainly a derisive Superman movie. Really sort of changed into multiple camps. Really two camps. The OG Supermans and the, hey, I'm cool with Christopher Nolan just remaking everything that's ever existed about a super important character in human, literary, and more importantly, comic book history. A lot of liberties taken.
Yeah.
With the identity of Superman, with the emotional makeup of Superman. This is the first time where Superman is introduced as a Batman-esque character with a tragic past.
The whole the movie's like shot in grayscale. There's been a lot of YouTube videos about this. I'll link it in the description as well, where they've suggested the theory that if they just changed the color, because if you look at the color grading in the film, everything is gray and
dark.
bland.
Very sad.
But if you restore the color of the film and make it all like, because his suit is really bright blue and bright red. Like if you make it look bright red, it kind of gives it more of a hopeful tone.
Brightens it up.
But the movie just looks sad and depressing.
Oh, important part to remember about Man of Steel is that Superman is in fact no longer Superman. He is now Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Very important part.
Yeah. Jesus Christ is Superman in this movie, or vice versa.
4 different characters in the film almost directly draw the comparison.
He goes to that church to seek counsel from that reverend, and his face is right in front of Jesus, like Jesus imagery. Jesus imagery. I am Jesus.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, that was not.
It was just beating you over the head with it.
Didn't like that.
I didn't care for Man of Steel. It ranks very low in my list, simply because you're jumping around a lot. It's destruction porn.
A lot of flashbacks.
The flashbacks isn't really what
a lot of flashbacks, flash forwards. I'm young, I'm old, I'm young again. Yeah. Why was I old in between the young parts?
What's going on there?
It's like you could have just put those together and then had another thing.
The discontinuity with like the way they tell the story isn't my biggest issue, but the biggest issue is how much the rules just kind of change from moment to moment. One minute they need to adapt for years to be able to live on Earth. The next minute, if he just kind of focuses really hard,
just take a second.
Yeah, just take a second to think about it, then you can focus your superpowers if your helmet gets knocked off.
Yeah.
Make up your mind. Either they can't exist on Earth without a lot of time to cope and learn how to adapt,
or that they can actually use their heightened abilities to adapt themselves rather quickly.
Yeah, just one way or the other.
It's the lazy writer's artificial drama.
Yeah.
Making a scene that you feel is boring, interesting by adding some shit that you didn't really think about too hard.
And if I had a nickel for every time someone tells Clark that he's important, tells Superman that he's important, or Clark's important, or you're here for a reason, I would have $1,000 by the end of that movie.
That actually became the defining characteristics of all the characters.
Yeah.
They get introduced as a singular entity.
Mm-hmm.
Lois actually comes in, seems like she's going to be pretty badass in this movie.
Yeah.
She holds her own in front of some generals. Mm-hmm. She kind of does some tough girl stuff. She's not your average Lois Lane. She's not some pretty lady. She's a tough journalist, and she's not going to deal with the army.
And then somebody grabs the rug and just pulls
Yep,
her
and
down.
then all of a sudden it is, you are the savior, you're going to be the greatest thing. If people knew what you could do, it would change the world. The world.
So, we'll start with our ranking and try to agree on a lineup, and let's see what we got here. Your number 6 and my number 6. We both agree.
Both agree.
It's the same.
Number
Superman 4. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, is not only the worst Superman movie, quite possibly the worst movie ever made. No, not ever made. The worst superhero movie.
Yeah.
Ever
Okay.
made.
Easy one right there. Worst superhuman. Yeah. Bad one.
Number 5.
Number 5, I feel like we differ on this one.
What's your number 5?
My number 5 is in fact Man of Steel.
Man of Steel, number 5, really?
Number 5, yeah.
So
I took it personal.
Okay.
And I also, I mentioned earlier that I was watching all of these in sort of random sequence.
Okay.
I had watched 1 and 3 and Returns. Man of Steel was the last film I watched, which probably not the best way to go. Because if you think about it, Man of Steel for most people is the first Superman movie they've watched, if they missed Superman Returns.
That's unfortunate.
Unfortunate for most people. But it was, I take issue with Hollywood changing humans. It happens far too frequently for me. I don't understand why, if you're going to make a movie and you already have storyboards made in the form of comic books, you don't just supplant the... how many years has Superman been around? Superman debuted in the 30s, so we have almost 90 years of material to draw upon. You can't just grab some. Don't have to pay a writer. Don't have to stick your greasy little mitts in it.
Oh, no.
Try and make it your own.
But that's
Can't
what
just
they
film
want.
a good movie.
No, they want to get the greasy bits in there.
I want to change the game, and that's what Man of Steel tried to do for me, and I wasn't having it.
There
They
were a
changed
lot
my
of problems with
Superman.
Man of Steel. Can I put it at number 5? Can I agree with you on that? You know, I think I can.
All right.
I think I can agree with Man of Steel being number 5 because you're right. There are a lot of problems. I don't like the way the rules of superpowers are ill-defined. I don't like the gray, bleak tone of the movie.
Superman is a happy-go-lucky character.
Sure, does he save a few people here and there? Yeah.
Does he?
He does. He
He
does.
saves
He
Lois.
does save some people. He says, "Get inside. It's not safe." You know, he saves Lois. He saves that army guy.
But there's no like random acts of kindness.
There's no. Well, I mean, he saves those folks on the oil rig, the bus people. So I mean, but Superman's not really. If they're going about this the way that I think they are, my main issue with Man of Steel was the huge amount of destruction to Metropolis, thousands of people dead,
Yeah.
and they just rebuild it
Yeah.
after a day.
We'll fix it.
And there's no consequences to that. I think Batman v Superman is going to kind of dive into those consequences,
Another lazy.
which could improve its ranking for me.
Not for me.
But
Not for us.
5, Man of Steel, I will admit, when I finally got around to seeing it, I was just kind of like, meh. You know, it seemed like they were in competition with the Avengers. You know, it seemed like they were trying.
It definitely felt that way.
It seemed like they were trying really hard, like that one kid in the lunchroom that you never want to sit at your table. But
Warner Bros.
it's
going
like,
after Disney.
Come on, let's do it. Hey, hang out with me, please. You want to hang out with me?
Yeah.
Let's be friends.
Tried too hard. Said that a couple of times in my notes.
Try too hard.
Coming on too strong.
A little bit. So we can agree 6, 5, 4.
This is where I feel like we're going to come into conflict.
It's-
Can I guess your 4?
Guess my 4.
3.
3 was going to be my 5, but 3, yeah, it's going to get bumped up to 4 now.
Unfortunately, 3 is my 1.
Well, I mean, we're going to have to give and take here somewhere.
Yeah, there's going to be some good. Now, and my ranking system is a very preposterously arbitrary, which most people's are. I'm just a little bit more honest about it. It has no real meaning other than how I was feeling. Actually, a couple days after I watched the films is when, actually this morning, when I actually tallied up all my points and I wrote them out. But I still... I'll give you a little bit.
Okay.
I'll give you 3 at 4 for the mere fact, even though it is my favorite film, Richard Pryor is hilarious in it. It's a very funny film. Of all of these films, I don't think anybody laughs as much as you do during number 3. 3 has laughs.
It's
You
a lot of
laugh
slapstick.
out loud.
It's there for laughs, but is it a Superman movie?
That's where I'll give you the position for
It's
purely on the fact
It's not.
it's not a Superman film.
It's not a Superman movie.
Not even really a superhero
And there's a
film.
ton of liberties taken with Man of Steel. So also, Superman movie? I don't know.
If you don't have Superman in it, you can't be taking liberties with him. Although they did take some liberties with him. They did make him fight himself in a junkyard.
Kind of bent him over there a little bit, literally.
Yeah.
Gave him a little autoerotic asphyxiation.
Evil
Until he-
Superman, the Bizarro Superman.
Bizarro Superman is really good.
The only time
One
when
of
you
the best
get a
parts of the
glimpse of one of the acceptable alternatives to General Zod or Lex Luthor as the great villains of Superman. Superman has amazing villains. I'll give him that.
That's why I'm willing to
Lots
bump
of
it up
great
from
villains.
5 to 4. I think Superman 3 is a great 4. Because, actually, honestly, I think...
Coming down 3.
Honestly, 3 should be 3. I think 3 should be 3.
I'm into that.
4 should be Returns.
Not so happy about that.
There's a lot of issues with Returns.
Okay, so this is what the real issue
Because
is.
it's also not a Superman movie. But go on.
I think the biggest issue, especially with ranking these individually, 1 and 2, that's one big film.
You see those as one film.
They were filmed at the same time. They lost the director, but most of the material that he had produced was filmed years before it was even produced. You know, they're the most sequential of all of these movies.
Yeah, they aren't just pulling out of left field.
They go
because like they break for no reason. It just snap. You gotta.
What was I saying? Oh, right. 1 and 2, I think we can mash those together. I think 1 and 2 will naturally occupy the space of positions 1 and 2 on the ranking. In no particular order. For me, 1 and 2, well, you tell me what you think.
For me, number 2 is number 1. Because I don't really... Number 1 for me is just entirely too long. Superman, the movie, is 2.5 hours long.
Very long movie.
A lot of it really drags. I mean,
Not a lot going on.
The score, however, is fantastic.
Yep.
It's the first superhero movie
That
ever
existed.
really. And I think it sets the stage pretty
Also
well.
has good 10 minutes of Marlon Brando in it.
And
Which-
God, they paid through the nose for that.
Yeah. That's why he never came back.
Nope.
Never showed up again.
He recorded that once. It was in 3 movies.
It's like having Russell Crowe in Man of Steel as Jor-El, Marlon Brando in Superman 1 as Jor-El, except that they didn't bring Marlon Brando back and make a whole big involvement of it like they did with Man of Steel.
Mm-hmm.
Which I've also heard. Have you heard they're going to try and do a Man of Steel prequel
That's weird.
with Russell Crowe,
That's
Jor-El, because people got such destruction boners from watching him fight.
That's silly.
I've seen enough of Russell Crowe fighting,
That's-
on and off the screen.
If I'm gonna get a sequel with Russell Crowe, I would like to have Master and Commander. Just putting that request out there.
Definitely down. Definitely down.
Um,
Far Side of the World was great.
It was a fantastic movie.
You give me any one of the other 21, even though 21 is not completely finished, Patrick O'Brien novels, which those are based upon, any one of them, perfectly acceptable. Big Master and Commander fan. Big fan. Big fan.
All right.
Really good series of novels.
Let's lock this down. What do you say? So, in the number
All right.
6 spot,
This is easy.
we've got Superman 4. Boom.
6.
And that is solid.
Yeah.
No one can dispute that fact.
Check and a plus next to the 6. That's a bad plus.
You know, it works.
There we go.
Number 5,
Man of Steel.
which I have to say, it's just, I'm sorry, all you folks that really dig Man of Steel, I just cannot get on board.
You're a better draw.
I cannot do this.
Too much of a reboot, too many liberties, not enough homage,
And to me, it really doesn't feel like a Superman movie.
far too much Russell Crowe.
A lot of Russell Crowe.
A lot of Russell Crowe.
Which, I'm down with Crowe.
And too much Jesus. Way too much Christian overtones.
Good God.
Just reminding us it's a Western flick.
Number 4 spot,
Number 4, Superman Returns.
Superman should have stayed gone. I do like that it jumps in and it asks the questions. What if 3 and 4 never happened? What if?
But if Superman was torn? What if Superman actually accepted the ramifications of his big fight with General Zod in 2, unlike is not addressed in Man of Steel, and he actually has a crisis of consequence? Lois Lane writes a very influential article, The World Does Not Need Superman.
Mhm.
Nice, big. I always like hearing that said.
But if you actually watch the movie and like watch the newspapers as they spin at the screen, the whole movie is like a day.
Yeah.
It takes
It
place
doesn't take a long time.
in one day.
Which a lot of stuff
Which
happens. A
does-
marriage falls apart.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's nonsense.
Mm,
And it's mostly just people looking at the screen with angst.
yeah. A lot of that.
Yeah. Like, Clark Kent spends the majority of the movie with no place to live.
No, yeah.
Like, they ask him like 2 or 3 times, like, oh, you found a place to live yet? No,
Not
don't
yet.
have anywhere. Nobody's like, dude.
You're walking away. Okay.
no,
That's awkward.
I don't have a place. Nobody thinks to stop and ask Clark, dude, where do you live? Who are you?
Superman. I mean, just Clark Kent. I'm just from Ohio.
Mild-mannered Clark Kent.
Smallville. It's a small town.
Another big reason why Man of Steel clocks in at 5 is because I don't believe that no one would recognize Superman as Clark Kent. I like that they let Lois Lane in on that secret, and there's no amnesia kiss.
A
Which
little bit too early for my taste, though. There should
Real.
have been some...
really soon.
To be fair, Clark Kent was not the Clark Kent that we've ever known. Clark Kent had nothing to do with journalism in
No.
Man of Steel.
No.
I don't recall even the mention of a Daily Planet.
He had nothing to do with anything.
Oh, no, there was a big, because Samuel L. Jackson.
Clark Kent's got nothing going on in that movie.
No.
And
Except for he's a crab fisherman.
Yeah.
A couple of cameos on The Deadliest Catch.
Yep. He
Yeah.
popped in there.
He does that.
Had a lot of deck safety was a big thing.
That was pretty bad.
But he Clark Kent in the glasses. Christopher Reeve doesn't look like Superman. Like
No.
Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent, you could see him walking down the street, like, who's that nerd?
Yeah, look
You
at
would
this guy.
never.
He was slumpy. He would change his posture. He looked down a lot, not very confident. Somehow his chin got smaller.
This guy's Clark Kent. He's
It's
just,
the exact same person.
yeah. I would work, like, first day on the Daily Planet, surrounded by reporters. At least 5 people would walk up to him like, you kind of look like that guy that destroyed the city the other
Yeah,
day.
I'm pretty sure you are him.
Are you Superman?
Also, I feel like this is the only movie to feature Superman with his shirt off in the first 20 minutes.
Well, nothing wrong with that. No, that's not
That was
funny.
kind of yeah, a little bit too much.
Number 3 spot, Superman 3.
Begrudgingly, yeah, you do the fancy one. I'm not that good at it.
Oh, yeah, I'm doing the fancy one. All right.
Superman 3, my personal favorite, but I give up the number 3 spot because it is not a real superhuman film, even.
It's a comedy.
It is a comedy, an awesome comedy.
It's
a
great.
Funny comedy.
I
I
laughed.
laughed so much, but it is not. If you ranked all of these movies from significance
Mhm.
in the Superman universe, this would come dead last. Almost nothing happens to anybody in this film.
No. And I have to say, it's taken a lot for me to give this number 3 spot to number 3.
I'm pretty proud.
But I will concede that it is at least a lot of fun.
It's a great movie.
I enjoy Richard Pryor. But, I mean, none of these final showdowns in any of these first movies, or even the last ones, are really that good. You know? It leaves a lot of
That is very true.
weird questions.
That is very true.
None of these Superman movies are great.
Not even close. They all lack really basic plot structure.
They're all pretty good. That's about
I
it.
wouldn't say all pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Take one away.
The number 2 spot is actually going to go to number 1. If
Yeah.
you can agree
Yeah.
that it's not as good as number
I'll
2.
accept that. I'll
All
accept
right.
that. Number 1, you raised some great points. Number 1 does drag. Number 1 also, not the most interesting movie.
It's not the best.
Not the best.
It's not the best. It's really long. Krypton looks great.
Krypton was great. Ice World, lots of crystals.
Mhm.
Huge fan of the crystals.
The glowing uniforms and everything.
That was really cool.
awesome.
Didn't like the hula hoops.
The hula hoops were actually, I kind of thought they were
You
kinda
liked
fun.
it, all right?
I kind of thought it was
I
fun.
got what they were going with it, but if you take a step back, you're like, that looks ridiculous.
Now I'm like, oh, I totally see how they're doing that. But back when I was a kid, I was like, oh,
Like,
that's
like
pretty
a force field. That's perfectly illustrated.
flippin' cool. But also you get that great score.
Yep.
John
Williams
John Williams,
Yeah.
one of the best scores in movie history, I think.
and the
Is
Superman theme, very iconic.
Mm-hmm.
A
Yeah.
classic, instant classic.
But the movie as a whole, I mean, the climax is him turning back time, spinning around the world.
And you're like, come on, really?
Yeah,
He goes into the San Andreas Fault.
it's just wacky. It's wackadoo.
I think the best thing about this movie, Lois dies.
She does.
She does die.
Shortly.
For a bit.
She dies like Captain Kirk died in Into Darkness.
Yeah, pretty crappy death.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty just buried alive in a car. I'm pretty sure I could have gotten out of that. Seemed like she wasted a lot of time sitting in that car.
Well, 2.5 hours, I think there was a lot of wasted
A
time.
lot of wasted time. Brevity, not a word they know.
Leaving one spot for the number 1 spot, which is Superman 2, I vote the Donner cut. But
I'll co-sign that loan.
all right, here we
I
go.
trust your judgment. I watched the original, and you know, when I concede 3, now I'm reorganizing my mind. 2 and 1 sort of occupied the same position for me, but Jared raises great points about 1. It does go to 2 as being the better made film.
It is. It's well put together. Yes, there's been that lead-in with Superman 1, but you don't need it to enjoy the movie. You finally actually put Superman against... You pit him against villains that are of the same strength as him.
Superhumans.
Yeah.
You don't have to rely on kryptonite.
The big showdown in Metropolis is pretty darn good.
Lots of cool stuff.
Holds up. It is still, much like all the other Superman movies, wackadoo.
Yeah.
Um,
Pretty ridiculous.
Unlike Man of Steel, it's
the
not...
chest Teflon.
Yeah, that's weird.
Real important part. Still don't know who thought of that.
All of the Superman movies, as far as like the original 4 go, and a little bit in Returns, but mostly the original 4, there's an element of humor.
An element of comic.
Yes.
Comics.
But it's not supposed to be the whole movie, but there's an element of humor. There was none of that in Man of Steel.
No humor at all. In fact, anything that was humorous about Superman was taken away.
Yep.
Even the fact that he had a boring Midwest existence, taken away. His Midwest existence was anything but boring. He watched his adopted father get sucked up by a tornado when he could have saved him so he didn't reveal himself, only to be revealed a little while later.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to spoil.
Oh no, I was reenacting Kevin
Oh,
Costner.
okay.
Yeah.
Don't.
Talk to the hand.
Also, death, everybody accepts it very placidly. Like
Really?
Buddhist monks protesting China's involvement in Tibet.
A good death is its own reward.
Dead.
Also, there's a lot of... I'm so sick of the wow.
I do not like that noise. I didn't like it when I first heard it. I don't find it interesting. I
No.
don't like what people think it does.
It doesn't do anything. Folks, this is our rating. Thank you for watching the full cut of this. In a moment, we're going to be putting together an abridged version of our thoughts on the rating system for all the Superman films. And that will be our main reply to, or really, I guess, original challenge, or part 1, part A, part B, I don't know.
Just a fun afternoon for me.
It's just, we're just having a good time. But this is one part of a 2-part series involving ramble on about movies. We're reviewing the Superman films. They're reviewing the good old Batman movies. They've got more material to review.
We have worse films to review.
Yeah,
And
I
a
think,
camera.
dare I say, I think as good as Superman 2 is, I don't think it's going to be as good as your number 1, which I'm willing to bet is going to be The Dark Knight.
I think 3 is better than The Dark Knight.
What?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
The Dark Knight is a near perfect film.
Ooh, don't say that.
It is a near perfect film.
Yeah, except it doesn't have Mark Hamill as the Joker, which, I mean, that just go ahead and ruins everything.
Can we at least agree that the worst one is Batman and Robin?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's an easy one.
Yeah, that's up there with Superman 4.
That's an easy one to go off.
Leisure folks, thank you very much for joining us again. My name's Jared.
My name's Michael.
You folks have a leisurely night.
Thanks for joining us.
Leisure critics say what? Leisure critics, oh yeah. Food, booze, entertainment. They're leisurely critical, y'all, because LC is the way to be.